Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Crafting and Crime Daily. I'm your host, Rebecca, and this is a show where I talk about live trials that are going on YouTube. Currently covering the case of Michelledraconas. She is being tried for conspiracy to commit the murder of Jennifer Dulos. Jennifer Dulos's body has never been found. So you would think, okay, this is not going to be an easy case, right? Well, I did a little research. and, the evidence to come is going to be, so far we haven't really heard anything that links Michelledraconas to this case, but yeah, more on that to come. Before I get there, though, don't forget to subscribe, ring the notification bell. I always forget when I subscribe to people. That's one thing I always forget. So you want to hit all so you don't miss a single episode, and hit the thumbs up button. Okay, let's talk about Michelledraconas. So the last couple of days were pretty boring, scientific stuff. They first had the DNA person on who talked about probabilities, odds of the blood splatter that they found. Is it spatter or splatter? I don't know. In the garage and in the kitchen of the home of Jennifer Dulos, that blood came back to Jennifer Dulos. The odds are that it is Jennifer Dulos's blood. But also, remember in the last episode I said, Fotis wasn't allowed in the house because, they were divorced and he had supervised visitation. So if he came over to visit the kids, he came with a supervisor and he would visit the kids out on the patio because Jennifer didn't want him in the house. But in the kitchen, they found his DNA. Just saying. Okay. Now, how do they know Jennifer's dead? Well, she's never shown up, and she's never used any of her credit cards. She's never accessed her bank, not using her cell phone. So she's presumed dead. But interesting thing happened last week. We lost 2 of the jurors. I think it was Wednesday. A note was given to the judge by a bailiff and or marshal. He's calling them marshals. So the marshal was asked to come forward, and he said this was given to him by another juror. So apparently, and he read the note into the record, and it said that this juror had heard another juror discussing the case, which you're not allowed to do. So the judge cleared the courtroom. He says, first I'm going to have to interview the person that wrote this note, and then I'm going to have to interview the person who this note was about. Now, it happened to be about an alternate juror. They have currently as of Wednesday, they had 6 jurors and 2 alternates. So, but he says I have to do this without video, without audio. So he asked the cameraman to shut everything off and step out. He did clear the courtroom, so none of the jurors could be identified. When we come back from his being off camera, we find out that the alternate juror was dismissed. An alternate juror was dismissed. Then on Friday, he brings in the jury to start the day. They're supposed to continue the testimony of the DNA expert. And he gets handed another note. And he's like, I've just been handed another note. Now, if I tell you the drama that went on with the jury before even this all started, I'll get there. So he's handed this note, and he says that one of the jurors overheard another juror mentioning the movie Gone Girl in reference to this case. Now, it sounded familiar to me, and I'm like, Gone Girl, what's that? And then I remembered. That's the one with Ben Affleck where his wife is like fakes her own kidnapping, and they presume that she's dead, and then she shows up and she's all covered in blood, and she was, it was all something she planned. So he mentioned, or the juror, I don't know if it was he or she, mentions Gone Girl in reference to this case. I'm like, oh my God. And then I thought, well, is this something Jennifer Dulos planned to just disappear and go off the radar and fake her own death? I don't know. Anyway, the judge does the same thing, clears the courtroom, no audio, no video. And when we come back, now we've lost another juror. So now we have 6 jurors, no alternates. And when I did a little research, I found out that back in when they originally picked the jury, they lost a couple of people, and they because the trial hadn't even started, they had to go back to the table and pick more jurors. So something tells me they should have more alternates than they did, and maybe they do. I'm assuming they only had 2 alternates, but maybe they had more. I don't know. Yeah, so hopefully nothing happens to any of the jurors at this point. So when he comes back on the record, talks about the juror being dismissed, the one that mentioned Gone Girl. This is totally irrelevant, but if you have not watched on Netflix, it's called American Nightmare. And it's about this couple that they have a home invasion. They're in bed, they have a home invasion, and the woman is kidnapped. And he calls the police the next morning, and he's like, I was drugged with NyQuil and kidnapped, and they're not believing his story. They think he killed her, and everybody's out looking for her, and they can't find her. And a couple of days later, she shows up. She's seen on surveillance footage just walking into her dad's home. Like she's been out on vacation or something. But so then it's a 3-part thing, and then so you hear his story, you hear her story, and nobody's believing them. They're mentioning Gone Girl, the movie Gone Girl. If you got to watch this thing though, it's so interesting. Okay, back to the Draconas case. I'm sorry. So, like I said, they finished up with the DNA expert, and then they put on the blood spatter expert. And from what I could gather from this boring testimony, the blood on the floor of the garage came from a low level, like floor level. So, which means Jennifer was probably on the floor of the garage when she was killed, I guess. Anyway, the next person on the stand was a state of Connecticut trooper, because originally this happened in a town called New Canaan, and the local police went out and they were investigating this missing person, but they realized when they saw the blood that this was probably more than they could handle in their police department. So they requested the assistance of the state police, who have this big crime van that come out and they do this huge investigation. And this happens a lot. They have to assist those smaller agencies. They're not set up with crime scene investigators and labs and all this stuff on these local levels. So they come in, and the person that was on the stand on Friday, he comes in. He is in the major crimes division. He comes out and he takes over as the lead investigator. So, and this is late in the day on Friday. So they just get through a lot of the preliminary stuff with him. Let's see. He said he looked at Fotis's cell phone records, and that on May 24th, the day of her disappearance, he was in Farmington most of the day. And then 7 p.m. that night, he was on Albany Avenue. Now, these don't mean anything to me, but I think these things are going to tie into other stuff later on. And he was curious about this Albany Avenue because it's a high crime area. Why would Fotis be there the night that his ex-wife disappears? So they decided to go and canvass that area and see if there were businesses or things that had video footage. And they did find a restaurant that they could see had an outdoor camera, but it was closed that day because it was Memorial Day. It was a Monday after she disappeared. So they go back the following day and they pull surveillance footage, and they didn't show it to the jury or to us, but he said that whatever it was that was on that footage led them to access this other footage. It's called C4. And he had to explain that. Actually, the judge interrupted the prosecutor. He said, maybe you should explain what C4 is. And I'm thinking, thank you, judge. And she even thanked the judge. So he explained that C4 is this um, building in Connecticut, and they have I guess it's, I don't know if it's police related, but they have uh, cameras set up all over the cities, you know, and whether they can catch traffic violations or anything like that. So they went to this place called C4 and they tried to access footage where they knew Fotis's cell phone had been on the day of the disappearance. And that's where the day ended. and, and the reason I hesitate to with this testimony is because there were so many interruptions with defense objecting to hearsay. And so where I think this is going is the witness that comes after him is they're going to bring in footage. This is where they're going to bring in the footage of Fotis and Draconas dumping the garbage bags all over Hartford. Yeah. Is Farmington in Hartford? I don't know. Let me find out. I don't know this area. Let me ask Google. Is Farmington in Hartford, Connecticut? It's a town in Connecticut, okay. Oh, in Hartford County. That explains things. There you go. All right. So the other thing I wanted to talk about today is also related to this trial, and I haven't talked about it yet because I really didn't understand the connection. And one of the subscribers, you left a comment for me to talk about it. And I thought, okay, this is a time to, short show today, so I'm going to dive into who is this attorney that was arrested at the same time as Michelledraconas and Fotis Dulos. There was an attorney named Kint Moeni, Mawhinney. I think it's pronounced Mawhinney. He apparently was close personal friends with Fotis Dulos. And so I pulled up his arrest affidavit, and I learned a lot more than I cared to learn about this. So apparently, Fotis and Draconas, his girlfriend, Fotis and Draconas, the girlfriend, who's on trial, were living in that Farmington house. Now, remember, Jennifer had moved out with the 5 kids, and she was now living at another location where she goes missing from. He is still at Farmington, where he's got his business on the floor above the garage. And I showed you a picture of this house. It's incredible. So the police discover, and I expect we're going to see this later on in the court case, that Fotis and Draconas have what they're calling alibi scripts. They have actually written out scripts about what their alibi is going to be. And within that script is the name Kint Moeni. Now, when Draconas and Fotis were interviewed following the disappearance of Jennifer, they said that the morning of the 24th, the day she goes missing, Draconas said that she dropped her daughter off at school and that she came home to Farmington because she's now living with him at this Farmington location. And she went over to his office and she said he was meeting with Mawhinney. Now, Mawhinney used to be an attorney. I think he lost his license, and I haven't figured out why yet. He's a former attorney. So he was having this meeting with Fotis. And Fotis is saying the same thing. And this is what the script is saying, apparently. So when they interview Mawhinney, he gives a different story. No, I wasn't there. And then later on, he changes it to, yes, I did have this appointment. So who knows? But so I'm thinking, well, that's not enough to arrest this guy, because he apparently represented him when he was a lawyer. He represented Fotis in some civil matters, including one matter where he was being sued by Jennifer's aunt for some reason. I don't know. This is a weird family. So apparently there were these two hunters. This is all in the affidavit. There was these two hunters, and they're out on this gun club property. Now, this gun club at one point in time was founded and run for many, many years by Kint Moeni, but no longer. He wasn't associated with this gun club any longer up until very recently, just a few months prior to the murder. He asked to become a member of this gun club again. And he asked how he can get access to the property. Apparently, it's this large property you can go hunting on. So these two hunters, they're out on this property. This is a few months before the disappearance. And they run across this hole, or these two barbecue grates. So they remove the grates, and there's this huge hole there, 6 feet long, 2 feet wide, 3 feet deep. Now, what does that say to you? Looks like a human grave, doesn't it? Nothing was in it except 2 bags, unopened, of lime. So they're thinking, wow. So they left it all uncovered because they didn't want anybody to trip over it or, stumble upon it. And then they just go on about their business. And then later on, when they figured out about this disappearance, they go back to this and it's all covered over. The lime is gone. So then one of the hunters notifies the police, and the police go out with their dogs, and they never find any human remains, but they were able to find the hole because it had been covered over. Whoever came behind the hunters had taken the bags of lime, and covered over the gravesite, or the grave, the hole. So they were able to find the hole again and confirm that yes, it was 6 feet long, 2 feet wide, and 3 feet deep, but no human remains. So, was this where they planned to take Jennifer's body? I don't know. The other thing I read is that Mawhinney was having issues with his own wife, or ex-wife. They were having some marital problems, and she had accused him of assault, sexual assault. And it's believed that Mawhinney and Fotis were planning to get rid of her as well. I don't know what happened with that. So initially he was arrested for conspiracy to commit the murder of Jennifer Dulos. Then he made bond, but they put an ankle monitor on him. So he got caught messing with the ankle monitor and tampering with that. They bring him back in, and they set a really high bond to kind of teach him a lesson. And he spends several, weeks in jail. But then in December, because he's had good behavior, they lower the bond and they let him out again, but he's on house arrest, not allowed to leave his house, and he has to wear this ankle monitor. And then you fast forward to May of 2023, and he's released from house arrest, but he has to wear the ankle monitor. Now, where I suspect all this is going is I think they're going to use this guy to testify against Michelledraconas. Oh my God, did any of that make sense to you guys? This case has gotten bizarre, really bizarre. Very Gone Girl, isn't it? Except I just can't imagine that this is something that Jennifer planned. No, I no. That she's really holed up somewhere waiting for, well, her husband took his own life, her ex-husband, and now it's just Draconas on trial. And there, as of today, there's been nothing set for Mawhinney as far as hearings, or there's nothing pending. Like, he doesn't have a trial date. So we'll see where this one goes. But I think that's what's going to happen. I think he's going to he's worked out some kind of deal with the prosecutor. Yeah. More to come on that. I can't wait to see these scripts, though. Who writes out their alibi on a sheet of paper? Like, here's what we're going to say. Here's your copy. Here's my copy. That's weird. That's just really weird. All right, there's another case I wanted to talk to you about that just happened last week. Over in Missouri, like one state over, where my good friend Crafts with Crashley lives. I think it was near where she lives too. I think so. I might be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But this woman, Sarah Schaer, 37 years old, was arrested for attempted murder. And she's being held in jail with no bond. They said, no. Well, she was caught trying to poison her husband's smoothies with a flower they call lily of the valley plant. I'll put a picture of it here. It's so pretty, isn't it? Isn't it? Who knew it was poison? She did, apparently. So in the weeks leading up to her arrest last Wednesday, her husband started to suspect that she may have been trying to poison him. And he mentioned to the police there were about 8 times when he had either food or drink where things just didn't taste right. He said on December 31st, she made him a smoothie, and he said it was really bitter. And he said, what did you put in here? And she's like, oh, I just urinated in it. And then he's like, that's not funny. And she's like, well, no, I really put industrial strength adhesive in there. And then she said, no, I didn't put anything in your drink. Like, she was kidding. I didn't put anything in your drink. I'm joking with you. Well, so he decides he's going to put a surveillance camera in the kitchen. And sure enough, he catches her on camera. And she is putting this lily of the valley in his smoothie. She puts it into a container and puts the container in the fridge. So the police are called. They watch the surveillance. They take the container. It's tested. She's brought in, and there you go. So some of the symptoms he was complaining about were extreme fatigue, confusion, blurred vision, severe cotton mouth, and nausea. So apparently, if you ingest this lily of the valley, it's a cardiogenic. It acts on your heart, and it will slow your heart rate down, and it'll also cause you to have an irregular rhythm. I don't know about all these other symptoms he was having, but I mean, it's possible. So she says she was having. Now, she's admitted to all this. She's not denying any of this. She said she was having an affair with a guy in Pakistan. What? And that she was getting ready to buy a plane ticket and go to Pakistan. That sounds like a catfish to me. Like, what do you think? Catfish? I'm thinking, yeah, catfish. Because just before she boards the plane, he's going to say, no, don't come. I've been arrested. Something horrible's happened, and they've got the wrong person. And can you help bail me out and send me some money? You know how those go, right? Right? That's what. Yeah, she got catfish, major, big time. The Pakistanis do arranged marriages. I'm just telling you. They don't marry somebody from Missouri. No. Okay. Guys, that's the show for today. As far as crafting goes, I'm not going to lie. I was into this Xbox game this weekend. I streamed it last night for an hour, and it's so much fun. Yeah. I had to give my hand a rest because I was getting a pain right in here from too much crocheting. So when that happens, I know that I've got to just let it rest. I am working on a diamond painting the Firebird panorama, the ones that's like 6 foot long. I've started it. I'm on section number 3. Many more to come over there. This is going to be like a year-long project, and I'm just doing it one section at a time. Yeah. All right, guys, have a great Monday. I hope your weather is better than mine. And I love you all. Bye.